we need to look at what good science communicators are doing right now. Oh, there's publicly available evidence to show in the Wall Street Journal with the adult population. It's the science denial is really an adult problem, and we can train children to kind of inoculate themselves against this, and that's super important, right? But we can't wait for them to say this. We need to have science communicators, some of whom are scientists, some of whom are not, speaking unashamedly about how science actually works. Science communicators, some of whom are scientists, some of whom are not, and I think that that's the main thing we could do. And I think that will bring back some trust. And I mean, people back in the 60s, they say, well, we trusted science. People trusted science, but they didn't understand it. They just, look, we've been to the moon.
In the fact that America went to the moon, like wouldn't that be delicious? You could do your own research and draw your own conclusions. This isn't the channel for you. This isn't the place to come to. But what's going on? Like, what's happening? Why is this all happening?
Well, people love to fight the flat Earth. I mean, it's coordinated. It's a coordinated attack. Yes. I mean, the first thing to remember is don't let them spread their disinformation and get anybody new.
We do not need to give you a platform on our channel.
And that's exactly the right way to fight it, by the way, because the research on this shows that disinformation, misinformation, once it gets loose, a certain number of people are just going to believe it. And so deplatforming flat Earth, the disinformation, that's the best way to fight it. It's coordinated. It's a coordinated attack. Just get them to doubt the facts.
Some conspiracies are true.
Some, yes.
Even the actual shape of the Earth.
So
I mean, obviously I have personal experience with moon denial, lunar landing denial, with flat earthers, etc. They seem harmless, although
get them to distrust you that would do all this crazy stuff. And so
how can we find our way out of it?
You're a liar, and just get them to doubt the facts.
And he has recently written a book called How to Talk to a Science Denier, and we get into it. How do we get to this problem? What are the forces that are driving the current level of science denialism, and how can we find our way out of it? All right, enjoy the interview.
So, I think this is, I think I chose this interview. I reached out to you because this is like an acute problem for me as a science communicator. I find that people definitely come to me, to my channel, looking for a fight, looking to deny science. And my response is, this isn't the channel for you. This isn't the place to come to. Like, what's happening? Why is this all happening?
Well, people love to fight. They used to just fight over values. Now we're fighting about facts. So I think for the most part, people, it's not that one day they wake up and question a scientific fact that they had accepted before. It's that they're driven to it. So they heard something from somebody. They've been polarized. There's a huge flow of disinformation out there, not misinformation, disinformation intentionally created by people who want people to deny science. They profit, or it's ideological or political. And so by the time they get to your channel, they're already pissed off, right? Because somebody has told them that you're a liar. And, so if it were just a dispute about facts, that could be overcome by evidence. But what the disinformers do is they don't just get them to doubt the facts, they get them to doubt you. They get them to distrust you and to think poorly of you. And that's why they're ready for a fight. And it's, by the way, why it's so damn hard to convince them. Because if they don't trust you, why should they listen to your facts?
The way you're describing it, they get them, is borderline conspiracy thinking talk. And in many cases, that's the other side sounds that way as well. So what is the difference between your understanding of a campaign to erode people's faith in or trust in facts versus the conspiracy version where people start with the conclusion and get back to the,
It's a great question. And I mean, the foundation to realize is that there was some work done by the Hufnagel brothers and some cognitive scientists, John Cook, Stephen Lewandowski, a few years back, to show that all science deniers reason in the same way, and that a very important step in their reasoning is belief in conspiracy theories. Yes. So how dare I say that there's this disinformation behind science denial, because that sounds like a conspiracy theory and it sounds like I'm doing what they're doing, right? And then if I reply, well, but this is true, well, that's what every conspiracy theorist says,
would say.
Right? That's what they would say, right? So how do I get by this? It's to realize that what's really important, what's really distinctive about science is that scientists believe things based on evidence, and they change their mind when there's new evidence. And so I think that, especially to a conspiracy theorist, especially to a denier, what's really interesting sometimes is to point out that there is a real live conspiracy, not just a conspiracy theory for which there's no evidence because the shadowy people are so good that, that they're able to hide all the, the evidence, and that's just what they want you to think. No, there's publicly available evidence to show in the Wall Street Journal, which, this conspiracy theory that there were microchips in the COVID vaccines. So microchips in the COVID vaccines.
Yeah.
And so this is a conspiracy theory. This is not true. There's no evidence for that. So
wow.
The intelligence services that were ever to be developed, they would hold. Bill Gates held the patent on a technology that would, do all this crazy stuff. And then they, at the bottom of that story, it said share on Facebook, share on Twitter, which people did.
Right, of course.
A month later, 20% of the American population believed it. So there's your conspiracy, not a conspiracy theory. I mean, you didn't have to break into CIA headquarters to learn this. It was in the Wall Street Journal.
Some conspiracies are true.
Some conspiracies are true. What makes the difference between a conspiracy and a conspiracy theory is this little weird fact about conspiracy theories, where if there's any shred of evidence, they'll use it. And if there's not evidence, they'll say that's just how good the conspirators are, that they can hide all the evidence. And so how do you change their mind even if you have the evidence? That's the difference. So this is not a conspiracy theory. This is a conspiracy.
Right, an actual conspiracy. And this technique, I mean, this is the honed version that has been part of climate change denial. So I mean, the climate change is the one that I have the most personal experience with. I mean, obviously, I have personal experience with moon denial, lunar landing denial, with flat earthers, etc. They seem harmless. Although people popped out of the woodwork, and it would just be this avalanche of denial going on, of undermining, as you say, undermining the evidence, undermining, making false claims, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it felt overwhelming. And it felt, to me as a science communicator, it was frustrating and really disheartening. Like, it really hits you at the core of what it is that you do. And it's taken a long time for me to come emotionally to the point where I just keep on keeping on, right? And you just keep going, and we just keep doing our thing, and we just delete, or ban, whatever, right? Like, okay, we do not need to give you a platform on our channel.
And that's exactly the right way to fight it, by the way, because the research on this shows that disinformation, misinformation, once it gets loose, certain number of people are just going to believe it. And so deplatforming the disinformation, that's the best way to fight it. But it does kind of go to your core. It's kind of a gut punch if you're a scientist or an ally of science. And that's what they want. I mean, it's coordinated. It's a coordinated attack. And just remember, it's not done for no reason. There's a purpose behind it. That's why, they're so virulent about it.
And funded.
And funded. Yeah.
Right. Better funded than me. Yeah.
The exception there, I mean, I think that you should always look for who's profiting by this, who wants you to believe this. There's a conspiracy thing to say. Who wants you to believe it?
Who wants you to believe this? Yeah.
Right.
Bill Gates, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But the one that I never could figure out who was behind it was Flat Earth. Nobody's making a buck there. They don't seem political. They don't seem ideological. I can't really figure out. That doesn't seem like that's the Russians or, some other state-sponsored thing. So where did that one come from? Climate denial, that's coordinated by, political and economic forces. But sometimes, I don't know, maybe they just arise organically. I maybe I don't have enough experience to know that.
Yeah. So the Flat Earth one is based from religion. So that's its source is that essentially the people who take the Bible and other religious documents literally have a bunch of problems with answers generated by scientists, and so there is an attempt to discredit the Bang, modern cosmology and evolution, and the actual shape of the Earth, false claims, et cetera, even itself. And
the moon landing, which comes along with that because there's a dome. And
Americans would want to undermine Americans' trust in the fact that America went to the moon. Like, wouldn't that be delicious if Americans were no longer proud of their space? No, right. And so we're not going to speculate. We're not going to make concclusions, but you could do your own research and draw your own conclusions. So that's how we got here.
Yeah.
But that doesn't, I mean, it helps me go like, here's how you got here. Here's how you got into the situation. But But I know that you tell a person, by the way, you are the product of, and they got you. How do we get people back out the other side? What is the conversation that we can have to talk to science deniers to bring them back to at least some trust in science?
First, you have to know that you're dealing with people in good faith, and that's difficult, right? I mean, the first thing to remember is don't let them spread their disinformation and get anybody new. So that's one reason to fight back, just so they don't have an audience, they don't have a platform. But okay, now if you're talking about the hardcore, person, you're never going to change their mind.
Of course.
But the people who they may not even believe it in the first place, but they're spreading. But the target audience here, and this is what I discuss in my book, How to Talk to a Science Denier, are the believers. They're the people who have been duped, the people who are the victims of this disinformation campaign. And the problem there is nobody ever wants to think that they've been duped.
Mm-hmm.
There was a focus group done by Frank Luntz, who's a hardcore Republican pollster, and he wanted to know what would convince people to take their COVID vaccines. And he got a whole group of, I think it was 20 vaccines. You know what worked? What they didn't know, but that made him more credible on what they did know. And here's why we think this. And we've done the studies, and here's what we know so far, and here's what we would need to know to change our mind. At the end of that focus group, 19 out of the 20 said that they were more likely to get the vaccine. And the only reason he didn't get the 20th is because that person had to leave early.
But what's going on?
They say, well, we trusted science. People trusted science, but they didn't understand it. They just, look, we've been to the moon.